Good afternoon. Today I am going to start the history chapter Nazism as the rise of Hitler. So from unit number 3 I will start the Nazi worldview. The crimes and the Nazi committed were linked to system of belief and a set of practices. Nazi ideology was synonymous with Hitler's worldview, as what Nazis thinking is same as Hitler's also, and it had spread throughout the whole world. According to this, there was no equality between the people, but only a racial hierarchy, only the racial hierarchy, the skin difference. In this view, blue-eyed Nordic German Aryans were at the top. Only the Nordic German Aryans who is having the blue-eyed were at the top. This which while Jews were located at the lowest rank. Nordic German Aryans were the top and the Jews were located at the lower rank according to their ideology. They came to be regarded as an anti-race, the arch enemies of the Aryans. They were regarded as an anti-race, those Jews, and here it's written all other colored people were placed in a between depending upon their external features, and other colored peoples also they were in the same place. Hitler's racism borrowed from thinkers like Charles Darwin and Herbert Spencer. Darwin was a natural scientist. Underline this. Darwin was a natural scientist who tried to explain the creation of the plants and the animals through the concept of evolution and natural selection. He had taken the other theory, the creation of the plants and animals, through which he had separated. Herbert Spencer later added the idea of the survival of the fittest. So Herbert Spencer also believed in the same principle. According to this idea, only those species survived on Earth that could adapt themselves to changing climatic conditions. We should bear in mind that Darwin never advocated human intervention in what he thought was a purely natural process of selection. So he didn't believe in this. However, these ideas were used by racist thinkers and politicians to justify imperial rule over the conquered people. The Nazi argument was very simple, and the strongest race would survive and the weak ones would perish. Underline this sentence, the strongest one, the strongest race, you have read that Nordic German Aryan would survive and the weak ones would perish. The lowest will perish. The Aryan race was the finest. The Aryan race, German Nordic Aryan, were the finest. It had to retain its purity, become stronger, and dominate the world. It is the pure section, and this will remain in the whole world. The other aspect of the Hitler's ideology related to the geopolitical concept of Levinson. Now, other ideology he had taken, and it based on geopolitical concept of Levinson, or a living space. He believed that new territories had to be acquired for settlements. He believed in the new territories which were taken for the settlement. This would enhance the area of the mother country while enabling the settlers on new lands to retain an intimate link with the place of their origin. It would also enhance the material resources and power of the German nation. Hitler intended to extend German boundaries by moving eastwards. He just captured this German boundaries towards the eastern to concentrate all the Germans geographically in one place. So he tried to accumulate all the Germans in one place, moving towards the eastward. Poland became the laboratory for this experiment. Poland became the laboratory for the experiment of the skin color, establishment of the racial state. Once in power, the Nazi quickly began to implement their dream of creating an exclusive racial community of pure Germans by physically eliminated all those who were seen as undesirable. See, he liked only this Nazi, he always favored to the German Nordic Aryan, and the lowest category they were known as undesirable in the extended empire. Nazi wanted only a society of pure and healthy Nordic Aryans. He always favored to the pure and healthy Nordic Aryans, German Nordic Aryans with the blue eyes. They alone were considered desirable. They were known as a desirable. And undesirable, the lowest category were known as undesirable. Only they were seen as worthy of prospering and multiplying against all others who were classed as undesirable. This meant that even those Germans who were seen impure or abnormal had no right to exist. So he believed that Germans who were not impure, who were seen as impure or abnormal, had no right to live. Under the under the euthanasia program, Helmut's father, along with other Nazi officials, had condemned to death many Germans who were considered mentally or physically unfit. So, Jews were not the only community classified as undesirable. There were others. Many gypsies, after Jews, many gypsies and blacks living in the Nazi Germany were considered as a racial inferiors who threatened the biological purity of the superior Aryan race. They were widely persecuted. They were considered as a persecuted. Even Russians and Poles were considered subhuman and the hence undeserving of any humanity. When Germany occupied Poland and parts of Russia, captured civilians were forced to work as a slave labor. Those Poland people, some of the Poland people also, they were captured as a civilian and they were asked to do the work as a slave labor. Many of them died simply through hard work and starvation. Some died with the hard work and some died without the food. Jews remained the worst sufferers in Nazi Germany. In Nazi Germany, Jews were known as the lowest category and they were also known as the undesirable. Nazi hatred of Jews had persecuted in the traditional Christian hostility towards the Jews. They had been stereotyped as the killers of Christ, so they were marked as the lowest category and users. Until the medieval times, Jews were barred from owning land. They were not getting any part of land. They survived many through trade and money lending. They were exchanged through the trade and they were exchanged by money lending. They lived in separately marked areas called ghetto. Underline this, those Jews were lived in ghettos. They were often persecuted through periodic organized violence and expulsion from the land. However, Hitler's hatred Jews was based on pseudoscientific theories of race. So they were totally separated as according to the pseudoscientific theories of race, which held that conversion was no solution to the Jews' problem. So Nazi thought that now Jews are having no problem and they were separated different from the German. It could be solved only through their total elimination. He thought that if they will be totally elimination, then only it can be solved the problem. From 1933 to 1938, the Nazi terrorized, pauperized, the pauperized word is given in the box, new words, reduced to absolute poverty. This is given here, and segregated the Jews, compelling them to leave the country. Jews were asked to leave the country. The next phase, 1939 to 1945, aimed at concentrating them in certain areas and eventually killing them in a gas chambers in Poland. So last they were separated, they have to leave the country, and even they were killed and they were put into a gas chambers in Poland. The racial utopia. Under the shadow of a war, the Nazis proceeded to realize their murderous racial ideal. Genocide and war become two sides of the same coin. Occupied Poland was divided up. Now the Poland also divided up. Much of the northwestern Poland was annexed to Germany. Germans were capturing the northwestern Poland also. Poles were forced to leave, like Jews were forced to leave the country, same as Poles were also forced to leave their homes and properties behind to be occupied by ethnic Germans brought in from occupied Europe. Poles were then herded like a cattle in other part called the general government, the destination of all the undesirable. Now these were all known as undesirable, the Jews, the Polish, the Poland, all of the empire. Members of the Polish intelligentsia were murdered in large number in order to keep the entire people intellectually and spiritually survival. Polish children who looked like Aryans, Polish children who looked like Aryans were forced, snatched from their mothers and examined by their race experts. So they were already forced. They were taken from the mothers and they have to be examined by the racial experts. If they passed the race test, then they were raised in the German families. They were included in the German family if they passed the race. And if not, they were deposited in orphanages where most of them perished. With some of the largest ghettos and gas chambers, the general government also served as the killing fields for the Jews. Now, on page number 64 and 65 some words are given, like here it's given ghettoization and annihilation. These words you have to learn, and new word is given here, synagogues, place of worship for people and Jews faith. So this page you have to learn, the 2-3 words are given. Then next I will start from 4th unit tomorrow.